Hello everyone, welcome along to the Blood Red YouTube channel, the Liverpool Echo LFC Facebook page and Liverpool.com's Facebook, as we are live with the Europa League draw, with Liverpool set to find out their opponents for this year's Europa League group stage. I'm your host for today, Patrick Smith, and I'm joined by the Liverpool.com editor, Matt Addison. Matt, how's things?
Yeah, all good, all good. We've just been having a little look through the possible opponents, haven't we? Some more familiar than others, slightly different, obviously, for Liverpool this time around. But yeah, I'm excited. I think that the Europa League can offer a bit of an opportunity, I think, for one or two players to come in and maybe play some minutes that they wouldn't have done. Obviously, coming on transfer deadline day as well makes it even more sort of hectic for us to cover. But yeah, it'd be interesting, I think, to see who Liverpool get. And it's nice to know sometimes that you can just start to plan out what the next few months look like. I do like to plan ahead and pencil in these games. So as soon as we know that, of course, that makes things a little bit easier for us as well.
Yeah, no, it is a crazy day ahead, no doubt, with transfer deadline day. Ryan Gravenberch hopefully getting across the line. We'll have the Blood Red podcast later, which will cover most of the transfer lines. But we are here, Theo, today. Theo Squires, live from Echo Towers, our Liverpool reporter. For the Europa League draw, Theo, are you used to the Europa League yet, or is it still a bit of a strange one watching this today on a Friday rather than a Thursday draw?
I suppose I'm used to it. It's the exact same format as Champions League, and I think it's just the younger brother. I suppose it's a bit different when you look at the teams they can face. You're not going to get the usual names, the usual suspects. And Liverpool go into this tournament as clear favourites, don't they? When you look at the fellow pot one seeds, who really are you actually fearing there? Like maybe if you got Roma late in the competition and then you get a few teams dropping down from the Champions League. But yeah, Liverpool should treat this seriously and just get those coefficient points in, go as far as you can in the tournament and just enjoy what is, I suppose, a rare experience for them these days. They've been so used to playing Champions League football. I'm of the opinion that I'd much rather be in Dublin rather than Wembley in May anyway, even if the Champions League is the more glorious, the more glamorous tournament. So yeah, just you're in it. That's got to accept the fate. Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, could not agree more. Having lived in Wembley, I'd much rather be in Dublin come May. That's what I'm going to tell myself anyway. It's Liverpool prayer for the Europa League. But Matt, what about yourself? I mean, you know, obviously Liverpool are in it. You want to win it. All fans and all media want to see Liverpool winning trophies. How seriously, though, would you take the Europa League? I know it may depend on the group, but are you committing the first team to it to go all out and try and win it? Or are you maybe giving some other players a chance in it?
I think you can kind of do a little bit of what Arsenal did last season, to be honest. I think the group stage, obviously, we don't want to jinx it before it's even happened, but you'd like to think that Liverpool can get a decent draw and be able to make a few changes. You know, it should be the case that you don't have to play Salah, Van Dijk, a couple of these players that, you know, not ordinarily would play all 6 Champions League group games. It should be the case that Liverpool can mix things up and change things around and still be able to comfortably go through. And I think that's pretty much what Arsenal did last year. They made changes but got stronger towards the back end of it. And I think that's what Liverpool can do, really. I think for the first half of the tournament, you know, even a couple of the knockout rounds, potentially depending on draws, assuming that Liverpool do get through, then you can maybe make a few changes and bring some of the big hitters in later on in the tournament. But I just think it's an opportunity, really. We've, you know, spent so much time talking about how hectic it's been for Liverpool in, you know, quadruple chasing and so many injuries and so much sort of fatigue and tiredness. I think it's an opportunity to rotate a little bit. They've got options that they can use. They've got young players who can get a bit more of an opportunity in this competition. So I think that's how I'm viewing it. Obviously, you know, the draw will play into that to some degree, but I think whoever Liverpool get, they should be overwhelming favourites. I think I'm right in saying that only Manchester City and Real Madrid have got a higher UEFA coefficient than Liverpool, and yet Liverpool are in the second tier competition. So, yeah, they should be overwhelming favourites to get through to the knockout phase. And if that means that they can play, you know, Stefan Bajcetic or Ben Doak or whoever it might be, Bobby Clark, if he doesn't go out on loan, I think you've just got to take that as a bit of an opportunity. And it's not quite a free hit because Liverpool have got to get through and there's a bit of pressure, but it should be a lot easier than some of the Champions League draws than what they've had in previous years.
No, could not agree more. It'd be good to see some of those young players get a chance for, you know, starting minutes. Ben Doak, Clark, Bajcetic, even Quansah, who say has had a pretty good pre-season. Obviously did the job at Newcastle at the weekend. And of course, for the likes of Gomez and Matip, it allows them to get some more rhythm and momentum in, because often at times they're just sort of thrown in, aren't they? Maybe an injury or a suspension, as we'll see this weekend. So it'll be good for players like that to get those extra minutes. But Theo, then it's the Europa League. Let's talk through some Liverpool Europa League memory, shall we? What's your lasting Liverpool Europa League memory?
Well, there's two, isn't it? There's 2 eras of Europa League football. I'm old enough to remember the Reds winning it back in 2001. Like Barcelona in the semi-finals and that amazing 5-4 final with the golden goal. And then Dortmund, Lovren winner under Klopp in that first season. It's a shame that wasn't a happier ending to that season because Daniel Sturridge's goal in the final. I've seen it today because it's Daniel Sturridge's birthday. And you think, my God, how was that not a winner in a final? Like, he was always robbed of that big moment, wasn't he? He didn't win the league, didn't win the Europa League, and he was just a supporting act by the time they won the Champions League. That should have been the defining goal of his Liverpool career, but along with the injuries and not quite happening for him. But yeah, it has been a good tournament for Liverpool in the past. Like before Seville's recent dominance, they were the most successful team in it ever. I think they're still the second most successful team in it ever. So it'd be nice to claw one back against Seville's ever-growing tally if they can get the chance this season.
Yeah, very good memories. I'm too young to remember the 2001 treble-winning final, unfortunately, Theo. But yeah, as you say, that final in was it in Basel, I think it was, wasn't it? Let's not mention a certain fizzy drink today, shall we? Because that's just going to haunt us back from that one. Matt, how about yourself then? What does the Europa League mean to you as a Liverpool fan? Because we're of a similar age, aren't we? So I presume we'll have a similar feeling of missing out on that 2001 final.
Yeah, I don't remember that one, but I do obviously have a few fond memories. Theo's mentioned that the obvious ones there. I think it's almost you need a bit of a shift in mentality because I think when Jurgen Klopp first came into Liverpool, I think getting into the Europa League was probably seen as a positive thing, and it was an opportunity to go on and win a European trophy. And I think that's what Liverpool have got to get back to this season, where probably, if I'm being honest, as I'm sitting here right now, I'm a little bit jealous of the teams who found out the Champions League draws yesterday. I think even a team like Newcastle, you look at the group of death, if you like, for them. But I mean, what an experience it's going to be for them. And I think, as Liverpool proved, even with 10 men, they're a much better team than Newcastle are, and yet they're not in that competition, and they are. So
I hope some Newcastle fans stumble upon this and give you abuse for that.
Clip it up if you like.
I'll clip that one up.
I'll come back to it at the end of the season. I'm pretty sure that Liverpool will finish ahead of them, but we'll see what happens. But it requires, I think, a bit of a mentality shift from myself as much as anybody else, because I am still a little bit gutted that Liverpool are not in the big one. But you've got to take the opportunities that come. And as Theo said before, I think Liverpool have got to be, among the favourites for this competition. Obviously, we don't know who's going to drop out. It may even be Newcastle that they end up playing at some point if they get into the Europa League. But it's one of them. It's an opportunity, isn't it? Even if it's not quite where we'd all like to be and where we all thought Liverpool would be at this point.
Yeah, let's hope they draw Newcastle. We'll call it the Matt Addison derby, won't we? I mean, the big thing with the Europa League, I just think back to 2010 sticks in my mind annoyingly when Liverpool had to get the train to play at Atletico Madrid because of the volcanic ash, I think, from Iceland, doesn't it? And of course, Forlan absolutely breaking hearts at Anfield in the return leg of the semi-final. But anyway, let's move on to today's draw, shall we? There'll surely be some more iconic European nights. I mean, it always happens at Liverpool, doesn't it? Of course, pot one, we'll quickly have a look through. They can't play anyone from it, but the teams in it are Liverpool, of course, West Ham, Roma, Ajax, Villarreal, Bayer Leverkusen, Atalanta and Rangers. Some pretty solid teams there, but of course Liverpool can't face them in the group stage. So let's all take a look at pot two, shall we? We've got Sporting Lisbon, Slavia Prague, Rennes, Olympiacos, Real Betis, Lask from Austria, Lask Linz, Marseille and Karabag. Theo, do you know anything about any of these teams? What can you tell us about these? Who would you like to draw? Who would you like to avoid?
Well, straight away, you want to avoid Karabag. I don't think anyone wants to be going to Azerbaijan. I'm sure it'd be a nice away day for the fans, something a bit different. I've been to Baku for the F1 a few years ago, and it is a really good city. But when you're thinking of the quick turnaround Thursday, Sunday, you don't want that long away day. You'd much rather have something a little closer to home. Obviously, there are some recognisable names in here, like Sporting Lisbon, Olympiacos, Marseille, Real Betis. They played some of these teams in the Champions League. And if we have to go back to the Rafa Benitez era, if you've got Sporting Lisbon, it's a chance to see Ignacio in action. He's a centre-back Liverpool have been linked with. You could do a little bit of a scouting report. Olympiacos brings back memories, of course, of 2004, 2005, and that Steven Gerrard wonder goal on the way to Istanbul. Real Betis, that's, of course, where Nabil Fekir plays his football these days. I think he's injured at the moment. He's got a serious knee injury. Whether he'll be back for the group stages, I'm not quite sure. But maybe we'd get some quotes from him at some point if Liverpool got Real Betis for him to say what really happened on that nearly transfer. And Marseille's always or Rennes as well. A nice local trip to France for an away day. That'd be quite nice. I think Rennes, actually, they've got another one of the defenders that have been linked with Liverpool recently, haven't they? Was it Arthur Theatre? yeah, so that's another one where you can scout the players out. That this, I think, says it all about where Liverpool are. Like, those are your second pot teams, and whereas Champions League second pot was probably stronger than the first. Here, you're thinking Marseille might be a little bit intimidating, but you'd still expect Liverpool to beat them home and away.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that one, Theo. Of course, Baku, though, as you say, is so far to go. I think that's the one I'd want to avoid personally from a Liverpool perspective. I know loads of Wales fans who went there for the Euros. I think it's about an 8-9 hour flight over there, Theo. You can probably tell me if that's true or not. But yeah, that would be a nightmare Thursday night match.
It was long.
Yeah. Go on then, let's move on to pot 3. Matt, I'll get you to talk us through the teams in pot 3. We've got Molde, Brighton, who of course Liverpool can't face because they're from the same country, Sheriff Tiraspol, Union Saint-Gilloise from Belgium, Freiburg, Sparta Prague, Maccabi Haifa, and Sturm Graz. Matt, if you want to talk us through this pot, what are your thoughts? Who you like in the look of? Who do you want to avoid, etc.?
Well, I think probably the only team I can talk you through is Brighton, and Liverpool can't draw them. But I'll try and pick out a couple of the others. I think Freiburg would be an interesting one. I think, again, I think the biggest thing that I'm looking for from this, given that Liverpool should be able to beat all of them, is a relatively short trip. If they can get, a trip to France and a trip to Germany, I think you're on a decent footing there. Obviously, Molde in Norway, that's not particularly far to go as well. Obviously, lots of Liverpool fans over there, I'm sure, would
Your
relish
Norwegian
that.
heritage, Matt, as well?
Well, yeah, not quite. We've got family in Norway, but yeah, I think Molde would be an interesting one. Certainly, I think I'd certainly take that one. But yeah, it's one of those. I just honestly, I think any of these pots, Liverpool should beat these teams home and away, and it should be fairly comfortable. But yeah, the shorter the trip, the better.
Well, if you're choosing France and Germany, Matt, or France and Molde, that could be a tough one with Rennes, Marseille, or Freiburg. Probably the strongest teams of the two pots. I'm kind of more like akin to Theo there. You want to avoid the long trips and the tough ones. Like I think Maccabi Haifa would be a really hard place to go. And same as Sheriff Tiraspol, sort of long journeys, tough, small, intimidating crowds. But yeah, let's move on to pot 4, shall we, Theo? I'll get you to talk to the fourth and final pot. We have got Toulouse, AEK Athens. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of the Serbian team. I'm going to bottle that one. But I'm going to go FK TSE Bachka Topola. Sorry if I butchered that, Serbian viewers. Servet from Switzerland, Panathinaikos, Rakow Czestochowa from Poland, Aris Limassol from Cyprus, and BK Haken from Sweden. Theo, good luck talking us through this one.
I was going to say, I thought you were doing really well with the pronunciation so far. I'm not sure if you've got any of them right, but at least you sound confident when you're saying them. So yeah, I'm going along with it. Yeah, there isn't really much we can say on some of these, is there? Like Toulouse, Liverpool played in the Champions League qualifiers back in 2007. I think they've bounced between Ligue and Ligue 2. That's how good my pronunciation is. I was just saying 1 and 2 in French. But yeah, that's a team that all fans are going to be aware of. You know the Greek teams as well. AEK Athens. I think they've got Djibril Sidibe there at the moment. You know, the ex-Everton loanee. So this is something else we're looking for. I think Panathinaikos, they've got Bernard as well. So these are the links I'm going for here. You might get a couple of ex-Everton players come into Anfield. Sure, if Liverpool fans even remember them, because let's be honest, they weren't the most successful signings for the Blues. They might get an interesting reaction. Aris Limassol. Personally, I wouldn't mind that one, just because I know Danny Pacheco. You remember the former Liverpool play he played for them. I interviewed him a couple of years ago when he was there, so I'd have to dust off my contact book, see if he can give us some insight on them. Can't give you anything on the Serbian team. Only the Liverpool's trip to Serbia when they won it at the Champions League a few years ago wasn't particularly pleasant. So hopefully you can avoid Serbia this time. Sweden, BK Haken, not really sure about them. Same for the Polish side. And then we've got Servette, the team I gave you the nice little tidbit on before we came on air, that they've got a player called Noah Oncho. No idea if he's any relation to Stefan Oncho, but he was born 9 months after they won the treble in May 2001. So maybe someone in the Oncho family was very happy to see Liverpool win the UEFA Cup back in 2001. We'll have to do some digging if Liverpool get them in the draw.
Let's just let that one hang there with our listeners. That's probably the best stat we'll hear across the whole day of Europa League draw, won't we? But yeah, I mean, Limassol would be a nice one for you going, Theo, if you're covering that one to go on the beach after you've covered Liverpool again. That'd be a nice little trip, wouldn't it? Go on then, let's give our ideal and nightmare group scenarios then. Matt, I'll get you to go first. From all the groups, if you could choose 4 teams for Liverpool to draw, who would they be?
Well, I suppose you've put me on the spot a little bit there with that one, but
Because you've got the teams in front of you.
Yeah, I do thankfully have them there. I suppose starting with pot 2, the nightmare draw probably you'd say was either Sporting or Marseille in terms of the quality. Again, not massive trips, which is something that does play into it for me. But I think probably Sporting. Am I right in saying that Sporting were the team that knocked Arsenal out last season? I think
they were on penalties, yeah.
I don't pay attention to this competition when Liverpool aren't in.
They knocked them out on penalties at the Emirates, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we're normally playing 5-a-side at the same time as that, aren't we, Theo?
Gonna have to change dates this year.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Sporting looked like the strongest team in that group, certainly. In pot 3, I mean, Brighton are by far and away the strongest team in that one, but obviously Liverpool can't get them. I don't think there's really, a nightmare scenario. I couldn't honestly tell you which of Molde and Sparta Prague are the best team. I don't know. It's hard to pick out a best and a worst, I think, from the pot 3 and pot 4. But I think Sporting are the one that you'd want to avoid. Real Betis, could be a bit of a tricky away trip. I think that's a fairly intense ground, and again, got 1 or 2 decent players. I don't think Felipe Coutinho's going there, but I know he's been linked with them a couple of days ago. So, yeah, those are the ones that I'd probably want to avoid in terms of the obvious ones. But yeah, as for the rest, it's much of a muchness, I think, for me.
Theo, how about yourself? Then if you had to choose your group dream and nightmare scenario for Liverpool across the 4 pots or 3 pots?
It wouldn't be too bad to go to Prague, would it? If you got Slavia or Sparta from pot 2 or pot 3. Prague's a great city, cheap beer. So that'd be a nice one for the fans. Toulouse, that'd be quite nice in pot 4. Like you're quite comfortable or confident in beating them. The horrible ones like Karabakh looks really tough in terms of distance. You'd want to avoid that. Same as you'd want to avoid Maccabi Haifa. You look at Sporting and Marseille, they're probably the stronger teams in pot 2, but you'd still be quite confident of Liverpool being able to do a job there. Same with Real Betis. But if you've got a choice of the closer European sides, Rennes is maybe the more favourable one in pot 2. And then you look at pot 3 and pot 4. I know I've just touched on a couple of them, but there isn't really too much there, is it? You probably like Union from Belgium just because it's a closer away day. Servette would also be a closer away day. I've just been distracted by John O'Shea's during the draw, so I'm sure he'd love to go for the worst possible draw. Even he might have been a boyhood red, but obviously he's a Manchester United legend. So hopefully he isn't too cruel to us with what he's pulling out the hat.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's a Europa League legend. Pretty strange. Of course, he's Irish, with the final being in Dublin. But yeah, let's get on with the draw, shall we? I think they're getting things underway now. Yes, I believe they are. I mean, yeah, there's some teams in there. I mean, Toulouse, of course. Thing is with these teams, we're talking about Sporting and Marseille being the nightmare. If you pull one of them in your Champions League group, you're pretty happy, aren't you? Is the bizarre thing with this competition. And it's going to take some getting used to be honest. I think everyone is going to be wanting to avoid Liverpool. The teams in pot 1, West Ham, Roma, Ajax, Villarreal, Leverkusen, Atalanta, Rangers. I'll get them on the screen now as they get the draw underway.
If you're in pot 4 or like one of the teams that you don't stand any chance of winning it, you want that day to Anfield.
To be fair, actually, yeah.
Because there was the Spanish team, was it Vallecano? Like they had the chant, didn't they, all season long going, we're going to Liverpool. And granted, they didn't qualify for the Europa League. But most of these teams will see it as a chance to play a team who are one of the biggest in Europe, who've won the European Cup so many times, have got so many famous European nights, so many famous players. And they'll say, yeah, would fancy having a go against them. Not going to get that opportunity too often, especially if then this is a rare season in Europe for them. It's a great day. That's why, personally, I was disappointed that the Faroe Islands side, Key, didn't make it through last night. Like they lost to, I think it was Sheriff in the qualifier, only 2-1. Like this tiny nation from the Faroe Islands. And yeah, they're going to go in the Europa Conference League group stages. But how massive would that have been for them if they've got Liverpool in the Europa League? It's a shame, but there are other teams that are quite small or from smaller countries that would be licking their lips at that possibility of getting battered at Anfield just to experience it.
I mean, I presume they qualify for the Conference League, I suppose, so not all doom and gloom. I've got mixed feelings on the Faroe Islands teams, Theo. BS3 Tórshavn knocked out half West County, who I used to play in the academy for, and they locked the changing room at half-time in the away leg. So I've got a bit of a thing against the Faroe teams based on that one. But, I mean, yeah, Matt, if you want to just talk us through as well, I mean, for these teams, it would be massive for them getting that trip to Anfield, wouldn't it? You've got to remember, Liverpool are the giants in the tournament this year. I mean, that's such a bad thing to say because they'll probably get knocked out at some point after me saying that. But they are the team that those teams will definitely want to draw, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's the big one, isn't it? You look at some of the other teams, I think, a West Ham, a trip there, or I think Leverkusen and various teams. I mean, there's loads of different sort of teams that you'd think it'd be a nice away trip for lots of fans of these smaller clubs, but Liverpool is obviously the standout by some distance. And I think that's, again, something you've got to remember with this. We're almost looking down on it a little bit and thinking that maybe this is almost too big for Liverpool, but that's the situation they find themselves in, and they've just got to do the job, haven't they, over the next few weeks and get through as quickly as possible. And I think it'll be interesting to see sort of when these games fall, if Liverpool were to get a Sporting, or if they were to get a trip very far away, for example, to a Karabag or somewhere like that. If that was to fall around another big Premier League game, I think that's something else to look for as well. I think it could be a big advantage in terms of not just who Liverpool get, but when those matches fall, and whether they're home or away first as well is always something that plays into it as well. If you can get the group wrapped up in the first 4 games, and then you really can play the kids in the last couple, then that can play into it as well. But yeah, ultimately, whoever it is that Liverpool get, they should be fairly confident, I think, and they can get through even if it takes a couple of changes. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who Liverpool play. But as we keep saying, they should be overwhelming favourites, whoever it is.
That's telling as well when you think how it fits into the Premier League fixtures, because after you look at game week 5 and game week 6 in the Europa League and the Champions League as well. Before that 5th game, Liverpool travel to Man City. And after the 6th game, they host Manchester United. So if you're not already through in the Europa League and you're having to go for stronger teams, same for City and United, of course, in the Champions League, depending how strong they've had to go. But if you've got your European exploits all wrapped up, you can just put out a bunch of kids and then fully focus on City, United. And that was obviously the dream scenario. Had it in the Champions League a couple of times, haven't we, Liverpool, where they've got it done earlier. And it is what you prefer to happen. But yeah, we're going to see kids in rotation in this tournament anyway. That's just part and parcel of Europa League football.
Yeah, very good point made there, Theo. I forgot about that. I've just had a look at my calendar here, actually. And of course, Liverpool play City, as you say, on the 26th of November. Europa League tie 4 days later. You don't want that to be in Baku, do you? Then they've got Fulham. And then the fixtures get very heavy into December. I'm sure more will be added because there's potential, I think, League Cup rounds as well to be put in there. Of course, they've got that Europa League game week 6. Then they host Man United. Then they host Arsenal. And then, of course, you've got Burnley away on Boxing Day and then Newcastle on the 30th of December. That's a crazy period for Liverpool in December. But as you touched on there, it's a good chance for those young kids. We touched on them at the start of the show, but let's move on to a bit further. Who are you most looking forward to seeing in the Europa League, Theo? Do you think this could maybe be the breakthrough for someone like a Ben Doak, or have you got your eye on someone else who could use this Europa League chance as a breakthrough?
It's a tricky one with Ben Doak because we'd have to see what they do with the squad, because if Ryan Gravenberch comes in, which is looking likely at this point, obviously it's all agreed he's having his medical today, they don't have room in the squad for him because granted he's an under-21s player for the Premier League, but you have to have been at the club for 2 years to be an under-21s player for UEFA competition. So both him and Gravenberch obviously wouldn't have had those 2 years, so they couldn't be under-21s players. So if you want Doak in Europa League squad, you'd have to leave someone out. Potentially, you could leave out Adrian because there are goalkeeping rules. That means if you'd lost Kelleher and Addison, you could call him up anyway, and you'd still have like Jaros or someone like that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, because this is a tournament that we saw as a great opportunity for Ben Doak. But fortunately, it's not that same headache for a Jarell Quansah. Who else? We've got like Conor Bradley when he's back from injury. For Stefan Bacesic, now he's back from injury. These are the players you want to see. And I'll wrap up this answer quickly because we've got the first team that's come out the hat.
Yeah, the draw is underway. But yeah, very good points made there. I think we've got a bit of time to talk through because I don't think it makes much difference talking through pot one, does it? Matt, if you want to just elaborate, because you're very in the know with the academy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm sure that there will be opportunities. Liverpool's name has just come out of the pot into Group E. I think West Ham was the first one, Ajax in Group B. But yeah, obviously we don't know who they're going to play until they've gone through all of this rigmarole and put each of the teams into a pot. So it'll be a little bit of a while yet before we start to know who Liverpool are going to get. But yeah, I mean, I can only sort of elaborate really on what Theo said there with Ben Doak, Bajcetic. I think Bobby Clark is one that we might see. I think Luke Chambers is an interesting one. Don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. Again, I know there's been interest from various clubs in taking him on loan, but he's certainly one that I think could, have a high ceiling at Liverpool and potentially be similar to Quansah, potentially looking at making a couple of appearances for the first team this season. So it's definitely going to be an opportunity. But I suppose it's important to say as well that it's not just going to be all of the sort of younger players and the teenagers that there's a big enough squad now at Liverpool where they are going to have to play some of these other players. You know, Tsimikas, for example, I'm sure the Europa League will be his competition and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's an opportunity for the youngsters, but it's probably an opportunity for a few fringe players as well to get some minutes. And I mean, to be fair, in some parts of the squad, there's no obvious pecking order in terms of the attackers. Ben Doak aside, you know, the others I think will rotate a little bit. But yeah, Liverpool have definitely got a big enough squad for being able to rotate and play a few kids, but comfortably get through this as well.
I mean, you mentioned there, Matt, it's a big enough squad, but then actually they'd probably let a lot more players go than they should have brought in. I think there's more outgoings than ingoings as we sit here on deadline day. Liverpool hopefully getting Ryan Gravenberch across the line. I mean, Theo, do you think there could be a situation where Liverpool are almost forced to play the kids come November, December if they get a couple of injuries here or there? Because as Matt's sort of alluded to there, I think, inadvertently, there's not actually that many numbers, particularly if you say in the midfield and you've got a tough Europa League Thursday match. Would you play the kids or would you risk playing those first teamers in that situation?
Well, it'd be a mixture, wouldn't it? It depends how players are playing at the time. Like Basetic would say he's a youth player, but he came into the side so well last year. Just depends on form, everything. Like there's still options there. It's just Liverpool's squad is that much younger now. We're on to pot B now, so
We're on pot B, yeah.
Bayer Leverkusen have just come out, so is that all right? Or are they in pot A? Am I still behind?
You're still behind.
We're just coming on to pot B. Sorry.
Just on pot 2, we just had Olympiacos.
There we go. So is that they're in West Ham's group?
I think it's going to be, it is West Ham and Olympiacos. So that's
no reunion for Kostas Tsimikas then.
No,
fortunately not.
The second ball just being taken out of the hat now. So hopefully it shouldn't be long until we know who Liverpool are going to play against. Marseille is the next one out of the hat. So presumably that goes into to Group B. It does get a little bit complicated with these things in terms of which countries can come up against one another and all of that sort of thing. But yeah, Group B for them, Ajax and Marseille.
It seems a lot more straightforward than Champions League, isn't it? If they just do it in order rather than, then we've got to get your group and make it all different and varied.
Yeah, well, maybe they've learned from the time we had to do 2 of these in one day that time. They completely messed that up, didn't they? But Real Betis, the next team out. So I think they should be into Group C, potentially. Or
it's a lot harder doing these without being able to listen to the audio of the draws at the time, isn't it? Because we've got to listen to each other.
So they're Group C along with Rangers.
Well, that's all right, isn't it? Like we said, Marseille and Betis are 2 of the more intimidating sides in this draw. Liverpool have avoided them. You still feel confident in whoever you're going to get, but who's left now? You've got Sporting, Rennes, Slavia Prague, Lask and Qarabag. So that Azerbaijan
not Qarabag.
Still reign. That threat is still there. It's still looming.
Please, not Qarabag.
Sporting in the same group as Atalanta, so Liverpool have missed out on them as well. So that was my nightmare draw. So we've not got that.
So yeah, this is whoever Liverpool get next. It is quite nice, isn't it? You're going to Prague or you're going to Austria, or even France. But then there's that trip to Baku. Yeah,
it's just been drawn out, and it's Lask, so a trip to Austria for Liverpool.
That's all right. We'll take that one, yeah.
I think that's,
Matt, Theo, can you tell us anything about Lask Linz?
Give me Google them and I'll see if I know any of their players.
I know that there was a forward who was linked with a move with Liverpool, which I don't think was ever likely to happen. But
yes, I can tell you something about them. They have got a midfielder / defender called Filip Twardzik, who I worked with at Bolton Wanderers in my former life. So he might have to be getting a phone call from me at some point.
They're currently 5th in the Austrian Bundesliga, only 5 games in. Lask at Linz, that is. Pretty interesting draw there for Liverpool. I believe they've not played each other. I'm probably going to be corrected, but at least in my lifetime, I don't recall them playing them.
No, I think they quite possibly overperformed last season a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see. I don't know, to be honest, in terms of the transfer business, how many players they've managed to retain or whether they've lost a couple. But it's certainly a decent draw, I think, for Liverpool in that sense.
LFC history tells me there's been 1 transfer between the 2 clubs, and that was the late Bessie and Idrisaj back in 2005.
Good stats, Theo. Good stats. Yeah, of course. That says
with Roma.
Maybe overperformed last season. They finished 3rd in the Austrian Bundesliga last season, behind obviously Red Bull Salzburg and Sturm Graz. So, yeah, it must be relatively decent to finish third in there, but I don't think that's any real trouble for Liverpool, is it, guys?
No, it shouldn't be. I think if Liverpool can get through with Red Bull Salzburg, then they can definitely get through with Lask.
I think we're rounding off now, aren't we? Pot B? Or Pot 2, sorry.
Yes, I think
Karabag has been drawn. So Liverpool have dodged the dreaded Karabag journey. That's a very good one to avoid because that can be a real problem if you've got to go all the way to Baku and back before playing, say, City or hosting Man United, as we discussed. But poor old Leverkusen. Xabi Alonso's by Leverkusen have got to make that journey, unfortunately, for them. Now we've got to Pot 3, aren't we, I believe? Yep, that's correct. So Molde, Brighton, Sheriff Tiraspol, Union Saint-Gilloise, Freiburg, Sparta Prague, Maccabi Haifa, and Sturm Graz.
So this is one where it can't necessarily be drawn in order. So if Brighton come out and it would have been Group E, they'll have to be dropped back for Villarreal.
I believe so. Or did they move them into another pot? They did explain how the draw works, but of course we've all got it on mute to listen to say. Matt, do you know how the draw works in that sense? If, say, Brighton get drawn with Liverpool?
I assume it will just go into the next pot, but it's not happened with the first one anyway. Freiburg, the first one out, so they go in with West Ham and Olympiacos. We're just about to get the second one as well. Brighton, the next team out, so they've come out into Group B, which I think should be fine as well.
That's a good group for them. Ajax and Marseille, some good away days.
Yeah, that'd be quite a close run group, that one, I would think.
Milner and Alana's European experience could be huge for them this year.
I still fancy them to get through, though. I think them and Ajax maybe just edge it in that group. Interesting.
And Marseille got Aubameyang. He scored a few goals in this competition over the years as well. We don't know who's going to be in the fourth team in that group, but it's looking very tight.
They've had a very good window, Marseille, haven't they? Brought in a Kondogbia amongst others as well. They're pretty solid looking side, trying to push for the league and title. Good draw for Brighton, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, Sparta Prague, the next one out as well. So they're in with Rangers and Betis. So that's another one ticked off the list. I have to be honest, I'm trying to watch two screens at once here, trying to work out which ones are left and which ones Liverpool could get.
We've got Molde, Sheriff, Maccabi Haifa, Union and Sturm left.
Yeah, Union are the next ones out. So they
can't be Sturm as well, can it? Because of Linspin in there.
So you want Molde then? Sheriff, Maccabi Haifa would be the worst trips, wouldn't they?
Union it is in with Liverpool's group.
Oh, it is. I thought you said they weren't.
No. I said they were one of those that were next up. But yeah, no, they are.
Oh, that's happy. That's good as well then, Union.
Very nice.
Belgium. This has been very kind geographically for Liverpool so far. Get your air miles out.
Yeah.
So they are Brussels-based, I believe, aren't they, Saint-Gilloise? I think, or in and around Brussels, I'm pretty sure.
Was that where Awani went on loan when he was at Liverpool?
Possibly. I think, is that the team that's linked with Brighton, where they send a lot of players there?
Yes, it is, because they signed Dennis Undav from them, didn't they?
They've got Alexis McAllister's brother, Kevin.
They do. Kevin McAllister.
They've also got three English players as well, actually. They've got a Ross Sykes, Matthew Sorinola, and Christian Burgess.
They've got Christian Burgess.
Before, I'm afraid.
Strangely, I worked on placement with Barnett, and I remember watching him and thinking, wow, he's going to go to the top one day. I suppose he's in the Europa League now playing against Liverpool, but yeah, very interesting stuff. I think they almost came out of nowhere, didn't they? I believe they were promoted a couple of years ago and basically challenged for the Belgian title 2 seasons ago, and they've been pretty solid ever since. Pretty remarkable story in that one. But as Matt says, I believe they're owned by Brighton, so probably got a big cash injection to make that happen, haven't they, you'd imagine. But rounding off the pot 3, then I believe, are we, Matt? I think you're a little bit ahead of me and Theo, aren't you?
Yeah, just coming to the end now. I think this is the last one. Molde, the last one's out, I think. So they'll go in to the last pot, if I'm up to date. Yes, it is. So yeah, Molde, Karabag, and Bayer Leverkusen in Group H. So just one pot left to go.
So much quicker and easier than the Champions League draw, isn't this?
I don't know why they bother. Awards every break, isn't it? So just get straight to the business. And there's a lot to say about the Europa League. Maybe we should make it more regular if we just get these over in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'll clip that one for you, Theo. You can come back to that, and that can explain everything if Liverpool fail to make the top 4 again this season. Hopefully they're not.
They can finish 5th and qualify this year.
True, very true.
Looking in pot 4, Toulouse would make it the dream geographical one for those close away days.
Just seen an interesting tweet from David Ornstein there. Liverpool reject a verbal bid of more than 100 million from Saudi for Mohamed Salah. I don't think there's any chance of that happening today, but that's certainly an interesting one to break during the Europa League draw.
Yeah, Salah's taken one look at this draw and go, you know what, I'd fancy playing Saudi instead.
Yeah, and I saw Mo be convinced by playing against Las Clins and Union Saint-Gilloise, given he's used to the Champions League heights. But who knows, as pot 4 gets underway. None of the Athens teams would be nice as well, I suppose, wouldn't it? Great city to go to. Lots of Liverpool fans, but yeah, as Theo says, geographically, Toulouse, a Servette wouldn't be too bad geographically, would it either?
Bacca Topola is the first one that is out. Apologies again if we've mispronounced that, but they go into Group A, West Ham, Olympiacos and Freiburg with them. Fair to say, I should say, that John O'Shea has done all right for Liverpool so far.
Fair to O'Shea, Matt. You nearly did that on there.
And almost
he's gone for a green tie. Very on brand.
Should have had a yellow one on for today.
We were saying that's Tom Kavir, who's come up in a full shirt and tie. If he's still around for the podcast later, our viewers might be able to see it, but he's looking very smart in Echo HQ this afternoon.
AEK Athens, the next one out. So they're in Group B. And we're just getting the third one now. Let's see if I can pronounce this one.
Aris.
Liverpool going up the Aris.
Aris Limassol in with Rangers, Real Betis and Sparta Prague.
That's a nice group for Rangers as well. You'd expect them to get through that.
Yeah, heavily beaten, weren't they, by PSV, but it's probably for the best in terms of actual progression.
Some nice cities for those fans to go to as well. Seville, little holiday in Limassol. What's the other one? Forgot the team now. It's just gone off my screen. It's Prague as well. Yeah. Nice for them. So there's another team, and then the last team of Liverpool's group should be drawn after this one, I believe, Matt.
Toulouse, Panathinaikos, Servette and Hacken. Liverpool can get any of these four. You're quite happy with any of them, really, aren't you? John O'Shea opening the ball now.
Yeah, Rakov, Czechoslovakia, drawn out with Atlanta Sporting and Sturm Graz. Now Liverpool's team, Matt?
Toulouse, looks like.
Toulouse.
Oh, the dream.
The dream, indeed. Dream geographically for Liverpool, no doubt.
Remember when Liverpool played them in 2007? Andre Voronin scored an absolute worldie. I think it was his first Liverpool goal in France. But it was a really weird early Champions League kickoff rather than, like the 7:45, 8 o'clock ones we're used to.
I'm not going to pretend that I can remember that, Theo. I think I was just a bit too young. And then I remember them playing in France a couple of times because, of course, they weren't allowed to wear the Carlsberg sponsor, were they?
They weren't allowed to.
That sticks for me.
I think they won 4-0 at Anfield as well. Am I right? Yeah, they won 4-0 at Anfield as well. Obviously, none of this Toulouse team are going to be around then. It has no bearing on how good they are these days. But it's a side Liverpool have played in almost recent history. Crouch Hoopier and a Dirk Kuyt brace in that one.
Yeah, am I right in saying it's them with Damien Comolli as well? Isn't he involved with something?
Yes.
They won the French Cup last season. They battered Nantes 5-0 in the final, I think.
Isn't it Toulouse with Redbird? So they've got the links to FSG?
Quite possibly, yeah. Quite possibly.
So, yeah, there is Liverpool's group confirmed then. Las Clins, Union Saint-Gilloise and Toulouse. Theo, go on then. Give us your reaction to that one. It's a pretty nice group there for Liverpool, isn't it?
Yeah, you're happy with that. Like we've been saying throughout this, there are no teams in the Europa League that you really think, I don't want to face them in terms of quality. So you look more for geographical reasons or what would be a nice away day. And Liverpool have got Austria, Belgium, France. Can't complain there. Nice opportunities to rotate against these lesser European sides. There'll still be a challenge, of course. These are the sort of teams you usually expect Liverpool to face in pre-season friendlies to warm them up. There'll be a challenge. They'll be happy to come to Anfield and see what they can do against Liverpool. But you'd like to think Liverpool have got certainly enough in the bag, even with the rotated side, to get the points they need to get through to the knockout stages and top the group.
Yeah, Matt, how about yourself? Are you happy with that one? It's a pretty friendly draw for Liverpool, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's one that, again, like we said before, you'd expect Liverpool can make a few changes, still comfortably get through. They're not having to travel that far. There's some nice little trips and places to go, which is always what you want from a European group. So, yeah, I think Liverpool will be fairly happy with that. I think probably the only English team with a tricky pathway through to the knockouts is Brighton with Marseille and Ajax, and obviously Athens in there as well for them. But I suspect that Liverpool will be able to get through, probably with a couple of games to spare, which would be, a massive advantage for them. And I think they've just got to take that opportunity, really get it done as quickly as possible and move on to bigger and better things.
See the UEFA cameras zoomed in on Kamoli when Toulouse came out the hat for Liverpool. So they're obviously also seeing that narrative.
Yeah, they have indeed. But so let's go through the rest of the group stage. So West Ham, they've got Olympiacos, Freiburg, and Bachka Topola. Not a terrible group for them, I suppose, is it, Theo, for West Ham? Hopefully, we like seeing the English sides do relatively well, don't we?
Well, we need the English sides to do well, because if the English sides do well, England are more likely to have 5 teams in the Champions League next year.
True.
But they'll have no qualms about that group. Like, they've done well in Europe the last couple of seasons. Obviously won the Conference League last year. Olympiacos and Freiburg may be a bit of a challenge, but if you're West Ham, you think you can do enough to get through, and there's no reason why they can't, because under David Moyes, they've been a good side in European football, a bit defensive at times, but they've got good players like Jared Bowen, assuming they keep hold of him today. I don't think he's potentially been linked with a move too much this summer, though he is a player that's been linked with Liverpool in the past when Salah's future has been the subject of speculation. So maybe that's a rumour that will emerge in the next couple of hours that we can dismiss. But yeah, if you're West Ham, you're happy with that group.
Yeah, I think you are. And of course, Liverpool will be happy. We'll wrap up this live stream there. Thanks, everyone, for watching along with us. A nice draw then for Liverpool. Lask Linz of Austria, Union Saint-Gilloise of Bruges, just with Belgium, and Toulouse of France. Very nice geographically and relatively not weak teams, but it could have been a lot worse Liverpool strength-wise. They've dodged the big guns of Sporting Lisbon and Marseille. And of course, those long trips that are dreaded with the Europa League. I mean, Russian teams being banned is a good thing for many reasons, but one of them is also the journeys that you'd have to face sometimes in the Europa League. I recall Liverpool going to Lokomotiv Moscow, I believe it was, back in the day, and Anzhi, etc. But yeah, nice draw then for Liverpool. Wrap up the show there. Thanks everyone for watching along with us here on the Liverpool Echo LFC Facebook, Liverpool.com Facebook, and of course the Bloodbred YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribed, liked, and followed on all of these accounts, everyone. We've got loads of deadline day content coming up. The latest on Ryan Gravenberch's transfer to Liverpool, a live Blood Red podcast, and potentially a further live deadline day live stream. So make sure you subscribe to us across all these. And of course, keep across the Echo website for brilliant articles from our writers like Theo and Matt. But yeah, for now, thank you very much for joining me, Patrick Smith, Matt Addison, and Theo Squires. We'll catch you all again soon on the Blood Red channel.